It's 11:59 p.m. The exam is tomorrow. You're staring at a textbook the size of a small car. Is this just about a study session? Oh no, this is only a sacred ritual. It's a high-stakes performance piece. The star of the show? You, the antagonist? Also you from 3 months ago who decided that watching an entire season of a show about competitive cheese rolling was a better use of time. Now the air is thick with the scent of desperation and stale pizza. You've got your highlighters lined up like soldiers ready for a battle they are destined to lose. This isn't just about passing a test. It's about proving you can bend the laws of time and space through sheer willpower and caffeine. The first stage of this ritual is denial. You calmly open the book to page 1. You read the first sentence. Then you read it again and again. The words are just squiggles. They refuse to form coherent thoughts. It's like trying to read ancient hieroglyphics after 3 glasses of wine. So you decide a strategic break is in order. You need to prepare your study space. This involves 20 minutes of searching for the perfect pen, another 10 minutes making a playlist titled Ultimate Study Power, and a solid half-hour convincing yourself that you work best under pressure. The pressure, by the way, is now building like a volcano filled with Diet Coke and Mentos. Next comes the bargaining phase. You make promises to deities you haven't spoken to since you lost your car keys last year. Please, just let me pass this one exam, you whisper to the ceiling. I promise I'll become a better person. I'll floss, I'll volunteer. I'll finally call my grandma. You start calculating the absolute minimum grade you need to pass the course. Suddenly, a D- looks less like a failure and more like a strategic victory. It's a testament to your efficiency. Why aim for an A when a D- requires so much less effort over the long term? It's just smart time management, really. Finally, acceptance sinks in. Not acceptance of your fate, but acceptance that you must now attempt the impossible. You must absorb an entire semester's worth of knowledge in 6 hours. This is your hero's journey. It's your Rocky training montage, but with more paper cuts and existential dread. You chug a questionable energy drink that tastes like battery acid and regret. You tell yourself that sleep is a social construct. You are no longer a student. You are a knowledge warrior, a scholar of the 11th hour, a true master of disaster. The night is young and your brain is about to host the world's most chaotic, ill-advised party. You think you're special, don't you? You and your all-nighter fueled by cheap coffee and self-loathing? Newsflash, you're not. This beautiful disaster is a global phenomenon. All around the world, students are united in this shared experience of academic self-sabotage. In Japan, they have a word for it, inemori, the art of sleeping while present, like in a lecture hall. It's a cultural nod to being so overworked that you just pass out. But before the inemori comes the frantic last-minute cram session, where students at a Tokyo university might be surviving on convenience store onigiri and canned coffee, highlighting passages with laser-like focus, only to forget everything the moment they leave the exam room. Travel over to India and the scene is just as dramatic, but with more flair and probably better snacks. Picture a student in Mumbai the night before a critical engineering exam. The entire family is involved. His mother is brewing chai that's strong enough to dissolve steel. His father is quizzing him on formulas he hasn't seen since the 1980s. His cousins are lighting incense for good luck. It's a team sport. The pressure isn't just to pass, it's to not disappoint 3 generations of ancestors. The cramming is intense, a whirlwind of rote memorization and whispered prayers. Because failure is simply not an option when your aunt has promised to make your favorite biryani if you succeed. Down in Brazil, the vibe is a little different. It's still chaos, but it's chaos with a samba rhythm. A university student in Rio might be trying to memorize Portuguese literature while her friends are texting her about a party on the beach. The struggle is real. The study session might involve frequent breaks for strong cafezinho and maybe a quick scroll through Instagram to see what she's missing. She'll complain loudly to her friends on WhatsApp, sharing memes about their collective doom. It's a more social form of panic, a communal agreement that they're all in this mess together, and they'll probably all go out to celebrate surviving it tomorrow, regardless of the outcome. And let's not forget Italy. An Italian student preparing for an oral exam is a sight to behold. It's less about quiet study and more about passionate theatrical rehearsal. He's pacing his room, gesticulating wildly, reciting historical dates and philosophical concepts to his own reflection. He's arguing with an imaginary professor, perfecting his defense. His nana is probably yelling encouragement from the kitchen, telling him to speak louder. It's not just about knowing the material. It's about delivering it with the passion of an opera singer. The performance is everything. The global truth is this: no matter the language or the subject, the ritual of cramming is a universal language of hope and poor planning. Let's talk about our partner in crime, our liquid courage, our bitter black enabler coffee or tea, or those terrifying energy drinks that come in neon colors not found in nature. At 2 a.m., when your eyelids feel like they have tiny anvils attached to them, this beverage is not just a drink, it is a lifeline. It's the fuel for the engine of desperation. You brew a pot so strong it could probably strip paint. You tell yourself it's giving you focus, clarity, and superhuman memory retention. What it's actually giving you is a heart rate that matches a hummingbird's and the sudden, urgent need to reorganize your entire bookshelf by color. The first cup is magical. It's the jolt you needed. The fog in your brain lifts, and for a glorious 20 minutes, you are a genius. You are conquering chapters, solving equations, and feeling like you might actually pull this off. You are Bradley Cooper in Limitless, but without the cool apartment or the stock market success. This feeling of invincibility leads you to pour a second, even bigger cup. You're on a roll, but this is where the trouble starts. The caffeine is no longer your helpful assistant. It's now the hyperactive, anxiety-ridden boss who won't stop micromanaging your every thought. By the third cup, you're no longer studying. You're just vibrating. The text on the page starts to swim. You've developed a slight tremor in your hands, making your highlighter strokes look like seismograph readings from a 7.8 earthquake. You start having brilliant ideas that have absolutely nothing to do with your exam. Should you start a podcast about the history of spoons? Should you learn how to knit a sweater for your cat? The caffeine has opened a portal to a dimension of useless creativity. Your brain is a pinball machine, and the ball is just pure, unadulterated anxiety. The final stage is the crash. It always comes. Usually right around 5 a.m. when the birds start chirping like tiny, cheerful demons mocking your life choices. The caffeine wears off, and it takes all your energy with it. It's a betrayal of the highest order. You're left with a pounding headache, a sour stomach, and a brain that has retained nothing but the lyrics to a song you heard on the radio 6 years ago. The elixir of false hope has revealed its true nature. It was just a loan shark for energy, and it's come to collect with interest. You stare at your notes, a hollow shell of a human, and realize you would have been better off just getting some sleep. When the caffeine wears off and your brain can no longer form new sentences, you turn to a method rooted in pure, unadulterated fantasy academic osmosis. The theory is simple. If you can't get the knowledge into your brain through your eyes, maybe you can get it in through your skull. You place the textbook under your pillow, a desperate, last-ditch effort to absorb information through sheer physical proximity. You close your eyes, convinced that the complex theories of macroeconomics will seep into your subconscious while you drool all over Chapter 7. It's a beautiful, stupid dream. This practice is the academic equivalent of wishing on a star. It's an act of faith in a world that has given you every reason to doubt. You lie there, the hard corner of the book digging into your temple, and you try to relax. You imagine the words and diagrams floating off the page, passing through the pillowcase, and implanting themselves directly into your long-term memory. You might even have a dream about the subject, a weird, nonsensical fever dream where historical figures are debating quantum physics. You wake up feeling like something must have worked. Surely that dream about Napoleon arguing with Schrodinger's cat meant something. Of course, when you wake up an hour later, the only thing you've gained is a stiff neck and a clear imprint of the book's title on your cheek. You flip through the pages, hoping for a flash of recognition, a spark of newfound genius. But there's nothing. The pages are as foreign as they were before your magical nap. The only thing that has been successfully transferred is the ink from the page to your face. You now have a backward sentence smeared across your forehead, which will be a fun thing to explain to your exam proctor. The myth of osmosis has been busted once again by the harsh reality of science. The sad truth is that your brain doesn't have a USB port. You can't just download information. Learning takes actual conscious effort. It requires engagement, repetition, and, believe it or not, being awake. Sleeping on your textbook is a profoundly human act. It's a testament to our endless capacity for hope in the face of overwhelming evidence. We know it's ridiculous. We know it won't work. But at 4 a.m., when all other options have been exhausted, it feels like it's worth a shot. It's the academic Hail Mary, and while it's destined to fail, it's a failure we can all understand. Research says you're doing it wrong. Shocking. You're not going to like this next part. It turns out that scientists, those buzzkills in lab coats, have actually studied our beloved chaotic cramming methods. And their conclusion, in a shocking twist, is that it's a terrible way to learn. I know, I was as surprised as you are. A 2008 study by UCLA researchers, for example, found that sacrificing sleep for extra study time, even just one night, is actually counterproductive. Students who crammed performed worse on tests than those who got a full night's sleep. It seems that our brains actually need sleep to consolidate memories. Who knew? Apparently, everyone who has ever passed an exam without having a nervous breakdown. One of the main reasons cramming fails is a little thing called the spacing effect. Research going back to the 19th century has shown that we learn and retain information far more effectively when we space out our study sessions over time. Our brains are like muscles. They need time to recover and rebuild. When you cram, you're basically trying to do a year's worth of bicep curls in one night. You're not going to end up with impressive arms. You're going to end up with a torn muscle and, honestly, a deep sense of shame. Your brain simply can't process and store that much new information in one go. It's like trying to pour a gallon of water into a shot glass. Then there's the problem of cognitive overload. When you force-feed your brain an avalanche of facts, dates, and formulas, you're not really learning. You're just creating a temporary, jumbled mess in your short-term memory. It's a fragile house of cards that will collapse the second you encounter a question that requires actual critical thinking. This is why you can walk into an exam feeling like you know everything, and then your mind goes completely blank. The information was never properly encoded. It was just sitting on the surface, waiting for a gentle breeze of pressure to blow it all away. So, all those all-nighters, all that caffeine, all that desperate hope, it's not just stressful and unpleasant, it's scientifically proven to be a bad strategy. The research is clear, slow, and steady wins the race. Spaced out learning, getting enough sleep, and active recall are the keys to success. It's annoying, isn't it? All those responsible people who start studying weeks in advance were right all along. They get good grades, a full night's sleep, and the smug satisfaction of being correct. Meanwhile, we're left with a caffeine headache and a C-. The system is rigged. At some point in your panic, a brilliant idea will strike. The group study session. The logic is sound. Pool your resources. Divide and conquer. If everyone learns one chapter, you can teach it to each other, and you'll all be geniuses by sunrise. It sounds like a perfect plan, a beautiful example of collaboration and efficiency. In reality, it's usually a masterclass in collective procrastination. It's less of a study group and more of a support group for people who are about to fail a test together. This way, at least you won't be alone in your misery. The session begins with the best of intentions. You gather at someone's apartment armed with notes, textbooks, and a dangerous amount of snacks. The first 15 minutes are surprisingly productive. You assign chapters, you make a plan, you feel a sense of camaraderie and shared purpose. This is it. This is how you beat the system. But then, it happens. Someone says the fatal words, "Let's just take a quick 5-minute break." This is the beginning of the end. That 5-minute break turns into a deep philosophical discussion about the best pizza toppings, which then evolves into a heated debate about the series finale of a TV show that ended a decade ago. An hour later, you realize you've learned nothing about cellular biology, but you now know a surprising amount about your friend's weird cousin and the drama unfolding in a different friend's love life. The study session has devolved into a gossip session with academic undertones. Someone tries to steer the conversation back to the topic at hand, but it's too late. The social momentum is unstoppable. You'll spend another 30 minutes trying to explain a complex theory to your friend, who is only half listening because they're busy swiping through a dating app. The collective brainpower in the room has dropped to near zero. By the time you all admit defeat, it's 3 a.m. No one has learned anything. The snacks are gone. The only thing you've successfully collaborated on is wasting several precious hours. You all trudge home, more stressed and tired than when you started, now with the added burden of knowing that your friends are just as unprepared as you are. The group study session is a beautiful lie we tell ourselves. It's the idea that misery loves company, but it turns out that company is really distracting. You would have been better off alone, just you and your textbook, in miserable, productive silence. The exam is over. You walk out of the hall like a soldier returning from the war front. You're dazed, confused, and covered in the metaphorical blood and guts of your own academic performance. You hand in your paper, a document filled with answers that range from "pretty sure that's right" to "I just wrote down the lyrics to a song and hoped for partial credit." The moment you step out into the sunlight, a strange phenomenon occurs. It's called post-exam amnesia. Every single piece of information you so frantically crammed into your skull over the last 24 hours vanishes. Poof, gone. Your friends, also looking like they've just seen a ghost, will immediately want to do a post-mortem. "What did you get for question 3?" they'll ask, their eyes wide with anxiety. You will stare at them with a completely blank expression. Question 3? Was there a question 3? You can't remember. You can't even remember what the subject of the exam was. Your brain, in an act of self-preservation, has decided to delete the entire traumatic experience. It's a full system wipe. The knowledge was stored in a temporary file, and that file has just been permanently erased. This is the ultimate proof that cramming is not learning. It's just intellectual renting. You borrow the information for a few hours, use it for the test, and then the landlord, your exhausted brain, evicts it without notice. You haven't actually gained any knowledge. You've just participated in a bizarre performance of remembering. A week later, you won't be able to explain a single concept from the course. It's a frustrating realization. All that stress, all that coffee, all that suffering, and you have nothing to show for it but a grade and a vague sense of shame. And so you find yourself in a strange limbo. You're relieved the ordeal is over, but you're also haunted by the ghost of the knowledge you once briefly possessed. You see the textbook on your desk, and you look at it like it's an artifact from a lost civilization. Did you really read that entire thing? It seems impossible now. The cycle is complete. You survived. You probably didn't excel, but you survived. And as you promise yourself that you will never, ever do this again, a small part of you knows you're lying. The next big exam is just a few months away, and the siren song of procrastination is hard to resist. The exam is done. The amnesia has set in. Now comes the final, unavoidable stage of the last-minute study saga, the crash. You've been running on adrenaline, caffeine, and pure, unadulterated panic for at least 24 hours. Your body has been writing checks that it can't cash, and the bill has just come due. It starts with a feeling of profound, bone-deep exhaustion. You make it back to your room, moving with the speed and grace of a tranquilized sloth. Your only goal is to make it to a horizontal surface. Any horizontal surface will do. Your bed, the floor, a pile of laundry, it doesn't matter. This is not just normal tiredness. This is a system-wide shutdown. It's the kind of sleep that feels less like resting and more like a temporary coma. You might sleep for 14 hours straight, waking up only to find that it's dark outside again, and you have no idea what day it is. You've lost a chunk of time. You check your phone and see a dozen missed calls and texts from friends who wanted to celebrate being done. But you couldn't celebrate. You were in the middle of the most epic, non-negotiable sleep of your life. Your body was in full recovery mode. When you finally emerge from your hibernation, you feel weird. You're groggy, disoriented, and strangely emotional. You might find yourself getting teary-eyed watching a commercial for car insurance. This is the emotional hangover from the stress. Your body and mind have been through a war, and now they're dealing with the aftermath. You'll probably get sick too. A sore throat, a runny nose, your immune system, which was put on hold during your all-nighter, has decided to take its revenge. It's the final insult. You suffer to study, you suffer during the exam, and now you suffer afterward. The crash is the great equalizer. It's the universe's way of reminding you that there are no shortcuts. You can try to cheat the system, to bend the rules of biology, but gravity always wins. Sleep is not optional. Your body will get its rest, one way or another. And as you lie there sniffling and feeling sorry for yourself, you have a moment of clarity. Maybe, just maybe, there's a better way. Maybe starting to study more than 12 hours before an exam isn't such a crazy idea after all. It's a fleeting thought, of course, but it's a start. So, what have we learned from this journey through the heart of academic darkness? We've learned that cramming is a universal art form, a global tradition of poor planning. We've learned that coffee is a fickle friend and that our skulls are not, in fact, porous. We've learned that science is not on our side and that group study sessions are a lie. And we've learned that for every all-nighter, there is an equal and opposite 14-hour crash. It's a beautiful, chaotic, and ultimately ridiculous cycle. Is this the secret to success? No. Is it the secret to a well-balanced life? Absolutely not. But here's the thing. While these moments of sheer panic and desperation are not ideal, they are part of the story. They are the moments we remember. No one ever tells a great story that starts with, "Well, I studied responsibly for 3 weeks and got a sensible amount of sleep." The stories we tell are the ones about the 4 a.m. pizza, the caffeine-induced hallucinations, and the time we slept on a textbook and woke up with a backward word tattooed on our forehead. We survived the chaos. We lived to tell the tale. There's a strange sort of pride in that. Maybe the point isn't to have a perfectly planned, stress-free life. Maybe the point is to live it, all of it, the triumphs and the failures, the well-laid plans and the last-minute disasters, the moments of genius and the moments of profound stupidity. Life is messy and unpredictable. Sometimes you're prepared and sometimes you're just winging it, hoping for the best. And that's okay. The goal isn't to avoid the storms, but to learn how to dance in the rain. Or, in this case, how to cry-laugh your way through a study guide at 3 a.m. So here's my advice, for what it's worth. Try to study a little earlier next time. Your grades and your nervous system will thank you. But if you don't, if you find yourself once again in the familiar territory of the night before panic, don't be too hard on yourself. Embrace the absurdity. Find the humor in the chaos. And when it's all over, tell the story. Because a life full of good grades is impressive, but a life full of good stories is a life well lived. Now go on. Tell me your most ridiculous cramming story in the comments. Let's compare notes on our glorious failures.